In college basketball, when you make it to the Final Four, the slogan is all roads end here. But in Athens this weekend, the slogan is all roads lead home.
Yeah, we got a big weekend of sports in the Athens area. We got the football game, field hockey, soccer, and ice hockey, much more next on Ohio Sports Zone.
I'm Bobby Levine. Alongside me is Ethan Graham, as always. But on a serious note, before we get started, we want to wish all families and loved ones on the east coast of Florida and the Carolina region good luck this weekend as Hurricane Matthew is headed right your way.
Absolutely.
Your thoughts and prayers are along with us up here in Athens, Ohio. Last weekend, though, Ohio football got its MAC season started as they defeated Miami of Ohio, the arch rival in the Redhawks, 17-7. Ethan, what went right for the Bobcats?
Yeah, it was the best defensive game for the Bobcats all season. Not so much on the offensive side of the ball, though. They were only 4 for 14 on first down, and Miami was actually outgained the Bobcats 238 to 197. And Ohio only amassed 56 yards passing. I'd love to hear the last time they threw for that little in a football game. And you look, maybe where was Quentin Maxwell when Greg Wyndham was struggling? Because, Ohio did have to throw the football at some points, but it wasn't all bad. The game was determined by turnovers. Ohio was +3 in turnover margin, leading 4-1, including 3 in the first quarter by Miami. Ohio wasn't exactly able to cash in on those, though. Miami looked good late. They had a chance to win late in the game. They're up 10-7 due to an 11-play, 88-yard drive. Ohio was up 10-7. Miami brought it to within that. There's a game, and then defensively, there's a game-clinching interception in the end zone. Blair Brown had Miami quarterback Nick Wazensky wrapped up in the end zone. He just threw it out of desperation, tried to extend the game. But Kevin Robbins was right there to intercept it in the end zone to seal it for the Bobcats. 7 sacks for the Bobcats, 7 quarterback hurries. Blair Brown had 9 tackles. Basham had 3 tackles, a sack, and a fumble recovery. He's a beast so far in the early going of this season. And on special teams, they had a huge game, especially punt-wise. Michael Farkas, the Ohio punter, was named MAC East Player of the Week. 3 punts inside the 20, including one that led to that game-clinching interception in the end zone. Ohio ranks 3rd in punt return defense in the whole country, Bobby. And Louis Zervos still doing the kicking thing. Leads the NCAA with 14 field goals. Still on pace to break the single-season record for the NCAA.
Absolutely. Great job from all the Bobcats there to go along with Greg Wyndham. Only 56 yards. He went 7 of 18, had 1 interception. QBR rating was just 25.7.
That's rough.
Very, very terrible from a quarterback that has carried the team so far. Luckily, though, he got it running with his legs. 19 rushes, 31 yards, and a single touchdown. And to go along with the Blair Brown stat, the 9 tackles, he had 5 solo tackles, a single sack, and 2 tackles for loss. Great job from here. The one stat I have that's going to blow your mind, on the punts, there was 12 total punts from both sides on both teams for a total of 467 yards. If you combine both offenses' total yards, that accumulated to 435 yards. That means there was 32 more yards punting-wise in the entire total offense for both teams.
Yeah, it was certainly a game. It was certainly a game determined by special teams. So Frank Solich said after the game that it seemed like whenever one side of the team, whether it be offense or defense, steps up, the other side takes care of it. Neither really stepped up until late in the game, and it was certainly a game won by special teams, I would say.
Looking forward to this week, homecoming here in Athens, Ohio. A lot of people will be at the game. Definitely a sellout in the first half for the Bobcats. They are taking host of Bowling Green University. They are 1-4 and 0-1 to start off the season. That is not what you want to see from another opposing MAC school in Bowling Green, who has been dominantly very, very good. What are the keys to this game?
Yeah, I look for Ohio to get out to a big lead quickly. They need to get back to the passing game. get everyone involved like they did in the Gardner-Webb game. They threw the ball to 12 different receivers, and the only 4 last week. I'd like to see Troy Manchin get involved. He's the big tight end. They usually do him on routes in the end zone. He's more of a red zone target. I look for them to get him involved. He had no receptions last week. They need to hit James Morgan early. Bowling Green just recently changed up quarterbacks. Cleon Aloisi, Blair Brown, Chad Moore, Kurt Lasik, Casey Sales, who had 2 sacks last week, all going to have a chance to have a huge game and really control the line of scrimmage. They need to score early and often. Bowling Green allows a staggering 49.8 points per game, allowing 77 twice against Ohio State and Memphis. I'll look for Ohio to do a lot of tempo offense. Like I said, get out early, maybe drop 14 on them, 21 first half. And stay healthy at running back going forward. Obviously, you have 2 very winnable MAC games here. Malik Irons came back last week, looked fine. Bo Hardy looks very good, especially for not playing that position regularly. And hopefully Dorian Brown comes back in the mix.
Absolutely. Hopefully, good luck for the Bobcats. Everyone here is talking so highly on the Bobcats against Bowling Green. I am very, very skeptical because the last 4 years, Ohio has gotten beat very badly, combined 168 to 51 blowouts against Bowling Green. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we've got the rest of the MAC here on Ohio Sports Zone.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek. So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek. So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Welcome back to Ohio Sports Zone. Ethan Graham alongside Bobby Levine. And before we talk about this week's MAC games, let's talk about a very high-octane offensive game in the MAC last week. BYU was able to outlast the Toledo Rockets and win 55-53, moving the Rockets to 3-1 on the season. They have not played a Mid-American Conference game yet. There was a horrible lack of defense for Toledo. It's a very exciting game, however. 8 lead changes in the second half and 17 points scored in the final 3 minutes. Logan Woodside, the Toledo quarterback, was a gunslinger in this game, threw for 505 total yards of offense and 5 touchdowns. However, he threw a crucial interception late that let BYU get back into it. The next drive, they drove down, got a touchdown run, put them up 52-45 with 3 minutes left. Toledo would score on the ensuing drive, go for 2 and get it. Risky move by the Rockets, but it did pay off to go up 53-52 with just a minute and 11 seconds left. The fireworks were just getting started, however, as BYU would kick the game-winning 19-yard field goal as time expired. And Toledo goes to Eastern Michigan, a very winnable game for them. Good chance to rebound. Eastern is 4-1. A couple other fun MAC scores here for you. Western Michigan absolutely routed Central Michigan. They continue to look like far and away the best team in the MAC, 49-10. And then Akron won on the last second, the last drive against Kent State, 31-27. Akron moves to 1-0 in the MAC. Kent State falls to 1-4 and 0-1 in Mid-American Conference play.
All right, looking forward here to Week 6 in college football. We're going to play the Pick'em Week. I'm going to ask you a game. say the spread, you tell me who you have and why. Ethan, for the first game, we're going to stay here in Athens as Bowling Green State University comes here. Ohio is favored by 12 points, Ethan. Who do you have and why?
Yeah, I like the Bobcats to win this game. Bowling Green obviously has pretty much owned the Bobcats lately. But defensively, they're not there. Ohio's going to have looking for a huge bounce-back game on the offensive side of the ball. I look for Wyndham to get the option working, throw some deep routes to Sebastian Smith again. That was kind of absent last week. I look for them to work in Quentin Maxwell, too. Obviously, Coach Solich during his 12 years here has liked to mix in 2 quarterbacks usually. We didn't see that last week, so I definitely look for that this week. I like Ohio big to cover the spread, too.
Before I pick my pick, I want to give a huge shout-out to one of our other hostess here. Gave me a huge shout-out. That's Mitchell Lyons. Said Phil Steele, has a huge pick for Ohio to win by plus 30 this week.
Wow.
I don't know if I can agree with that because Ohio has struggled mightily against Bowling Green, but I'll say Ohio wins but does not cover the spread. Next game, Miami of Ohio, 0-5, staying in the East, goes to Akron, who is 1-0, and the only team that is 1-0 alongside the Bobcats. They're 3-2 overall. Akron is favored by 7.5 points. Who do you have?
Yeah, this is a big game for really Ohio to be looking at. Akron really seems to be the only competition for the Bobcats going forward in the MAC East early in the season. I like Akron to go in and win. I think Miami is a very good defensive team. I think they'll just barely cover the spread. Akron, obviously a very high-powered offensive team. I look for them to come out with the W and probably a higher scoring game on both ends of the football.
I look at it, Miami very, very mad after last week's performance offensively. Their defense is one of the best, if not the best defense in the MAC. I feel the offense needs to wake up for them, only putting up 7 points against a very, very good Ohio defense. I think Miami comes out, ends up surprising a lot of people, and hopefully upsets Akron. And if that's so, that could be a huge path for Ohio to get to that MAC championship later in November and early December. Next game, Toledo 3-1, as you just talked about last week, losing a heartbreaker to BYU and Provo. They're going to Eastern Michigan, who's 4-1. Right now, Toledo's favored by 17 points on the road. That's a huge one. Who do you have and why?
Yeah, I think that spread's very big. Eastern Michigan up there in Ypsilanti, obviously not a very dominant football program. Hasn't started 3-0 since 1995. Now they're 4-1, coming off a win last week against Bowling Green. I like Eastern to hang around and stay in it. I think they are getting better as a program, despite who they play. They can only win the games that they're assigned. I like Toledo. That's who they are. The Rockets. I like Toledo to win, but not cover the spread.
Okay. I think Toledo is going to win. I hope they do, just for Ohio's sake, to be in the East. I do think Toledo is a very, very, very good offensive team defensively. We'll have to see how they do against Eastern Michigan. I think they win and cover the spread as well. Kent State 1-4. Very, very rough start for them, going against another rough start. Buffalo team who is 1-3. Kent State on the road is favored by 2 points. It's going to be a very close game, good defense game. Who do you have?
Yeah, this should be a really grind them out MAC game. Probably not a whole lot of scoring. Both teams are sneaky. Usually end up beating one of the MAC teams in the East who appears to be on the fast track to winning that division. A battle of 2 teams like that. I like Kent State to beat Buffalo and cover the spread.
I think Buffalo's going to surprise a lot of people, win that game. Before we go to a quick commercial break, though, Northern Iowa is 1-4 going against the best team and the last undefeated team in the MAC in Western Michigan, who is 5-0. They are favored by 20 points. Do you have Western Michigan covering that spread with ease?
Yeah, I do. I think they'll win by 20+.
I think they do, too. They are the hottest team. They've beaten 2 Big Ten teams so far
this year. It's unheard of for a MAC school.
Very soon, I do believe they will be ranked in that top 25, slowly moving up the ranks if they keep and staying hot by blowing out the very weak MACer teams they played so far. We're going to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, we've got the rest of Ohio sports here on Ohio Sports Zone.
That's low and below.
Look, he's blushing.
Seriously. Okay.
Looking for these? You drive buzzed. It could be one very expensive ride.
First, you gotta make bail. Then pay me to get your car back.
Your insurance premiums will go through the roof.
And my legal fees just keep adding up. All told, it could end up costing you $10,000.
Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Toucan Sam.
What's it take to get some hunky construction equipment up in here, huh?
I hope you're joking.
I think we need to follow the advice of Jesus and get down, girl. Go ahead, get down.
Please state your name and the role you're auditioning for.
Hi, my name is Christopher Walken.
What if it is Loch Ness Monster?
I mean, I got some shopping to do at Whole Foods, but I'll join in.
But to my captain.
I'm right then. I knew I was right.
Welcome back to Ohio Sports Zone. Ethan Graham alongside my partner in crime, Bobby Levine. Big week for the Bobcats on the pitch. Soccer, they lost their first game 2-0 to Western Michigan. Western Michigan, historically in soccer, one of the biggest and baddest teams in the MAC. They've won the MAC championship the last 3 years in women's soccer. Ohio was down 2-0 at half and getting outshot 15-1. But they turned it around a little bit more in the second half. Still not able to get on the board. They lost that game 2-0. Coach Rogers was disappointed with his team's first half, saying they were very flat. But they came back strong in the second half, and they talked about it throughout the game. They have to put those two halves together in order to be competitive on the soccer field. The Bobcats' second game this week was a loss to Northern Illinois 2-1. Bobcats did play much better in this game. Coach Aaron Rodgers was much more pleased with his team's effort. Not a whole lot of carryover from that bad first half against Western. Much more scoring chances throughout the game, and Remy Eads led both teams with 4 shots, and she did score the goal for the Bobcats. What's going on in the world of field hockey, Bobby?
The world of field hockey is looking very bright right now for the Bobcats. They started the season 1-5. After that 1-5 early start of last month, they lost 4 in a row. They got it really hot quickly. They're 3-1 right now. The record is 4-6, and they're 2-0 in the MAC. Right now, they're playing very well. Last 2 wins, huge overtime victories against MAC opponents. They beat Ball State 3-2 in an overtime goal, and also 4-3, another overtime win. Huge one for the Bobcats. Looking forward, tomorrow they play Missouri State at 5 p.m., so please come out and enjoy some nice field hockey. And hopefully the weather is cooling off now, so it's not as hot as it was earlier this season. They've got 3 away games after tomorrow against Missouri State, against Wake Forest, Ball State, and Longwood. To note on some stats, though, for the season so far, there's been 23 goals scored by the Bobcats. Only 3 goals or goal scorers for the Bobcats have more than 2. Right now, 17 of 23 goals have been scored by Kendall Ballard, Maria Russell, and Brittany Keene. They are playing excellent for the Bobcats and look to stay hot moving forward. Ethan, what's going on in the rink of hockey, not in field hockey?
Yeah, a huge weekend for the Bobcats on the ice in the ACHA hockey. They have their first real test versus number 8 Colorado this week, and he was undefeated at 5-0, like the Bobcats, who check in at 4-0. Colorado has beaten Missouri State, Arkansas, and Rutgers in their games, and they play number 2 Lindenwood right now as we tape this. That's a huge game for them coming into this weekend, especially considering that they're going to be after playing 3 elite ACHA teams in 3 days. That's going to be a lot on the legs for the Buffaloes. Jake Bauer for Colorado is their leading scorer with 9 points in 5 games, and their goalie Colin Champion is an absolute stud on the ice in the early season here. He has a 1.25 goals against and an amazing 9.49 save percentage. Not a lot of holes in Champaign. Keys to the game this weekend for Ohio. I look for them to shoot, and just get pucks on net. Obviously, when you're going up against a goalie like Colin Champagne, you're just going to have to take every possible route to the net you can, every open lane. Never a bad play when you put the puck on the net. They're going to have to start fresh, especially on Saturday when Colorado will be playing that 3rd game in 3 days, and take advantage of those legs. There's obviously going to be fatigue. You're playing 3 games in 3 days. I don't care how conditioned you are. The Bobcats need to take care of that. Ohio needs to prevent the long pass when Colorado is breaking out of their own zone. We saw a few times last weekend's game. Kent State would get some breakaways, have some very good opportunities on goal. And Ohio also needs to stay out of the box. Colorado is 30% on the power play. They are one of the elite teams in terms of special teams in the ACHA. And Ohio needs to win that special teams game, not only on the power play, but in terms of the penalty kill. Both teams are near the top in both categories. Bobby, take us through some volleyball. I heard it was a big week for the Cats on the hard court.
Absolutely. This team so far is not the regular volleyball team we have seen as of late in Athens. This team is 7-9, 3-1 so far this season. They started out 4-8. Right now they are 3-1 as the last 4 games. They are playing excellent. They only lost to Miami of Ohio. They only lost so far in this MAC season. They need to win out pretty much and beat the Miami Redhawks a month from now to hopefully get a top 3 seed in the MAC tournament, hopefully win that game. And then if they win the MAC tournament, they go on and end up going into the NCAA tournament, which we have the last couple of years. So good luck staying healthy to the Bobcats on the hardwood. They have a huge weekend coming up for them. But we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we have the rest of college football here on Ohio Sports Zone.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek. So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek. So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Welcome back to Ohio Sports Zone. We missed you. Ethan Graham here alongside my partner in crime, Bobby Levine. Bobby, was a huge weekend around the country last weekend in college football. Some absolutely insane endings from the Midwest to the South. Take us through some of those games.
Yeah, we get started off here. The Florida State game. North Carolina came to Florida State. Florida State was ranked in the top 25. They were coming in as a huge favorite. Ended up losing on a 54-yard field goal by Matt Weller, who kicked it as time expired, as a huge upset for the Tar Heels to win that game. The game after that, though, staying in the SEC, the South there, not in the ACC, excuse me, Tennessee was at Georgia. Georgia threw a Hail Mary with 10 seconds to go, connected to go up by 3 points, had a 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, which moved the ball back on the kickoff. Tennessee and Josh Dobbs had a last chance prayer from 54 yards out. Hail Mary connected to end up giving them the win. They're such a lucky 5-0 team thus far. And then later on that night, Clemson with a huge victory over Louisville. Lamar Jackson and the Louisville Cardinals were pretty upset there. They were favored.
Yeah, coming back late in that game.
Absolutely. They were upset in Clemson, which is a surprise to see that, as Clemson was a team in the Final Four last year. But that was the crazy finishes I've seen last week.
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting week 5 around the country of college football. As we know, college football is a game of upsets. You never know what's coming next. Bobby, who do you like as your upset special this week?
Upset special of the week. People, listen to this one. I know you're going to go crazy, but the number 1 team in the nation, the Alabama Crimson Tide, are in huge danger. Yes, against the Arkansas Razorbacks. The Arkansas Razorbacks have been playing very well. They have 1 loss this year, but Alabama next week has to play Tennessee. This is what they call a game beforehand, a sandwich game where they're thinking ahead. Right now, Arkansas is going to be all ears and all eyes ready to beat up on Alabama, as Alabama is the defending national champions. I do expect Arkansas to come in there and hopefully pull off an upset, one for the ages. And what about you? Who's your upset of the week?
Yeah, I also have an upset special in my bag of tricks. I like Texas and Charlie Strong and those Longhorns to beat the Oklahoma Sooners. Strong is on the hot seat. They're obviously struggling these last couple weeks. Heard it back to last year. Oh, they should fire him. Heard it early this year, especially after losses to Cal and another team. Texas beat Oklahoma last year. Bob Stoops obviously has issues in big games that is documented. 2 high-power offenses coming into this game in a neutral site, and 2 tough losses. Like I said, the Cal and Oklahoma State was another team that escaped my mind. I like Texas and Charlie Strong to pull it out this weekend. Just when the Longhorns look dead in the water, you never know.
That's a Red River rivalry there for you. Absolutely, you never know who can win that game.
Yeah, moving on around the country, who's your game to watch this week, Bobby?
Game to watch will be at 3:30. It's going to stay there with the Tennessee. Tennessee is going to Texas A&M, the old Big 12 team. Right now, they have a very, very solid team. Both teams ranked the top 10, 8 and 9 to be exact. A&M is ranked 8. I think this game is going to be a gut-wrenching East versus West SEC matchup. I expect Tennessee to finally play their first complete game, come away with a huge win moving forward to Alabama next week, and all eyes will be still on the SEC that time next week.
Yeah, the Volunteers, we almost had a chance to beat them. I mean, anytime you almost lose to a MAC school, I hate to put us down like that, but when you're a Powers team like that, Tennessee need to win those games convincingly. We're about halfway through the college football season, Game 5, Week 6. Who's your biggest surprise to date, Bobby?
I've got 2 surprises. One, I'm going to go with the Tennessee Volunteers. I know we've been talking about that big time this segment, but listen, they've had huge escape games. They've pulled away with wins. Opening the season off against Appalachian State, they barely won that game. Even against Ohio, they did not look pretty. They ended up coming back. Actually, they were up the whole time. Only up by 2 at half and pulled up by 9 at the end of the game. They were down 21 points against the Florida Gators and blew them out in the second half. It seems like they put their JV team out in the first half, come back, and then the varsity guys are like, all right, we'll clean up your mess right now. Took over and powered through, putting up 38 points against that Florida Gators defense. And then last week they were dead to rest against the Georgia Bulldogs. With 4 seconds to go, Josh Dobbs throws up a prayer and connects. I was very surprised with that one. Another team I'm very surprised about is Michigan State. As a disappointment, not except as an improvement, but they lost last week to Indiana. Now, the Indiana Hoosiers have been the laughingstock of the Big Ten forever.
Really a struggling football program.
Huge, and finally they come out and surprised so many people, beating the Michigan State Spartans, who were in the Final Four last year, in overtime in Bloomington.
Yeah, I hate to remind our audience, but I did pick Michigan State in our preseason segment. Not looking too bright on that one, am I? And we talk about Tennessee, we keep beating it into the ground, but they truly are one of the most interesting teams in college football. From being down, almost losing Week 1, they should have lost Week 1 due to an extra point against App State. But hopefully moving forward for them, they can strengthen some things together. I'm sure they won't leave us short of any storylines. Transitioning into a more dark side of college football, if one might say. Yeah. Who's your biggest disappointment so far in this early season?
Now, there are a lot of teams that are big-name teams that have been huge disappointments this year. You can say USC, Notre Dame, Florida State have multiple losses this year coming into the season that were very highly ranked. I'm going to go with Texas, though, your upset pick of the week, because Charlie Strong's on the hot seat. Bob Stoops last season needed to win that game, did not. That was the only loss Oklahoma had in the regular season until they got blown out by Clemson the first week of the college football playoff last year. I believe Bob Stoops is out for blood once again. They are the team to beat in the Big 12, even with 2 losses coming to Houston and Ohio State very early. They still want that Big 12 championship and hopefully a chance to sneak their way into the college football Final Four. Texas, on the other hand, defense is struggling mightily. Charlie Strong is a defense-minded coach, and his defense is not performing. Just fired his offensive coordinator. He's the last line of defense. If it doesn't go well this week, expect him to get cut, as long as some other coaches as well.
Yeah, you look at Oklahoma, obviously they have 2 losses. It's going to be tough to get into the championship like that. But if you had to lose to 2 teams at all in all of college football, Houston and Ohio State are 2 losses that don't exactly kill your resume or your chances of going to a BCS game or even the college football playoff if they win out in convincing fashion.
They definitely need Houston to trip up later this season. Houston has a very big game against Louisville later this season.
Huge. That's going to be an interesting game.
Everybody be watching that one because Louisville is still trying to make their way back into that ACC championship game picture. They have some big wins early on in the season, so we'll have to keep an eye on that one. That is all the time we have this week for Ohio Sports Zone. Again, Ethan Graham, I'm Bobby Levine. We'll see you next week, same time. Have a great weekend.